G'day everyone, I'm Russ. How are you? Welcome to Alcoholics Anonymous. So I'm talking about something that Joe basically does. The worst you can ever get is when someone emails you and says, you're going to talk about this. So that's what we get here. So it's a way to do it. There's a lot of people that assume that the industry is a very black and white industry where you are either UX or UI or a designer in front end and you can only pick one. Has anyone experienced that? One of the things that I've noticed, being way older than most of the people in the room here, probably been in the web since some of you, before you were born, young bastards, is that most people have been around long enough, have worn many, many hats. Am I allowed to say that you're a bunch of bastards? So what I'm going to give you is a brief history of professional skills using crappy Venn diagrams, if that's okay. So when the web began, and by the way, this is completely just my interpretation of the web. It's probably completely false, but that's the point here. If you disagree, when we open up questions, you can abuse me or throw chairs. So when we began the web, there were just geeks. When I began in 95, oh, you jumped one. When I began in 95, there were designers just come on, and there was this weird thing called HTML. We weren't sure who did it. But there was this other group of people called webmasters. Does anyone remember that time? Yeah. They were called webmasters. They were bastards. Talking about bastards. I was going to stereotype them, but I won't. Let's just say they were bastards. They thought they knew everything. They pretty well did because the web was minuscule. And I was a designer and I knew nothing. So basically the pecking order was they would tell me whatever we were going to do. And just to give you an idea of what I used to do, I used to open up Photoshop and type in headings and cut them as GIFs and stick them on websites. Can you believe we did that? And then they changed the font, so you'd have to do another 3,000. Then in '98, this guy called, and you've probably never heard of him, is a guy called Jakob Nielsen. Anyone heard this guy?
Yeah. What?
So this guy comes out with a theory that to the day still haunts many people about the three-click rule. Anyone heard about this? Anyway, so the usability started to kick around this time. Well, that's when I started to notice it, but maybe some of you noticed it earlier. But it was sort of hovering off to the side. But it still really wasn't that big. But now we've moved from, webmasters to developers. Some win. We sort of evened out. We started to have back-end, front-end, and web design. And then we get a more articulate view. You've probably all seen this, but this is done around the web. So you've got front-end, back-end. I don't know whether any of you agree with this. But one of the things that you probably notice where you sit yourself is a mixture of places within this. No one is a tick box. You're probably all a range of different skills within there. But I can see what you're thinking. That's a crappy thing. What I would really like is much more detailed UX diagram. Am I right? I can see what you're after. So here we go. Now, I would like someone to quickly summarise in a sentence what that means. Go. Crap. Okay, here's a better one. This articulates it much better. I think some of you sit just here. I'm not very sure. But I can see what we really need is that's good. Yeah. So this really articulates UX in a nutshell. But hang on, I think we can go, there we go. That's it. So that's UX, and I think some of you are just there in sound design. But generally speaking, that's where we are now. But of course we can go bigger because UX is old hat now. You've got to be CX, and even better if you're BX. Now some of you may not even know what that is, but quickly go and brush up on it because you get double the pay grade each grade. So I don't know your reaction, but my reaction is pretty well that. But I've noticed that I've been in a slightly different industry as well, and it's the UX front-end developer role, and we've also had the same thing. So in the early days it was just HTML. That was even before CSS. And then, God, imagine it. This is the simplicity of our life in those days. CSS, HTML. It was a beautiful world. It was a world I could cope with. In 2008, basically it was CSS, but dealing with that shit of a browser. That was our entire life. So it was a weird Venn diagram. And then it sort of evened out, and we had to do JavaScript as well, and then we had to do frameworks, and then we had to do SAS, and then now we have to do basically everything. Everything that's half in the world of developers. And along the way, a lot has been gained, a lot has been lost. One of the things that I'm noticing quite interestingly is a lot of the younger developers can quickly pick up frameworks and build really rapidly, but really if they're asked, have no idea how to do basic HTML or basic CSS. So we've gained a lot of the process, but we've also lost a lot. We've gained a lot of acronyms, which I think is vitally important. So a lot of people's reaction now, if you're coming into this industry, is just, this is insane. Really, where do I sit in all this spectrum? And of course, is there anything missing? Well, one of the things that I find fascinating that's missing from all these discussions is accessibility. Now, it might not be something that many people in the room are passionate about, but really, accessibility is a role that sits in amongst many of these. If it's done well, accessibility is part of research, it should be part of information design, etc. And if you've never thought about it, really, part of our research should engage with all these types of audiences. Every product may have a type of audience. A simple example is if you're dealing with people over 50, like me, then you're probably going to have poor eyesight, poor hearing, bladder problems. I'm just going to go. So there's all sorts of conditions they may have. If you're dealing with information design, etc., you should be asking yourself, should you be including these types of people in your focus group? Should you be doing user research on these types of audience? Do they have special eye considerations, etc.? And of course, designers, they should be thinking about these things, font size, colour contrast. Everyone knows that they've got to put it into the front end, but a lot of people forget that really it should be involved really early on. So then I started to think, what the hell am I? Does anyone think about that? I come to this problem quite often when I was with Joe in jail, but many of those times thinking, what the hell do I do? So I tried to do a quick one of what I did. I began as a web designer, but between you and I, just, you 200 people, I suck at web design, even though that's where I began. And I quickly moved into UX, and I found that I was much more passionate about how people use the website than really what it looked like. And that's not to put down design, but I found that these are the sort of areas that I was passionate about. And I am a front-end developer in part, but I couldn't classify myself as a true front-end developer. I couldn't get a job in front-end development now. I don't know 6,000 different pattern libraries, even though I've done since 2003 in CSS, and I'm employed specifically to help people build complex pattern libraries, but I couldn't be a front-end web developer anymore. So I'm finding it interesting, what do we call ourselves? I'm also an accessible developer. I actually get brought in to help teams build accessible components on big applications. So does anyone else have this problem? What the hell am I? Or is it just me? The question you probably ask yourself is this difference between should I specialise or should I branch out? And of course, you can be what you want to be. But the question is, it really depends on your interests, your skills and your team. One of the biggest things is that if you're passionate just about one area, you'll probably find that your career will go down that role. If you get bored easy like I do, like a brain of a chipmunk, then you'll end up jumping all over the place. Your skill sets will be involved as well, but the biggest part of it is the team you're involved in. If you're in a tiny startup, you'll wear multiple hats. There's no way you can come in and go, no, I just do wireframes, bugger off. You'll last about 2.5 minutes. So on a tiny team, you'll probably have to wear a lot of hats, be very agile in what you need to do. I've worked in other places like banks where you might have a very, very specific role in a very large team. So you might be just doing wireframing or something like that. So it hugely depends on the team you're involved in. And then the next question is, should I branch out if I am a specialist? And a lot of people say, do I have to? I've met UX people who just say, no, I'm not ever coding. And then you slap them in the face. Say that later. But really, one of the things that I find very interesting about people who specialise in UX is that until they get under the skin of development, they really don't understand the role fully. If nothing else, just for rapid prototyping, whether you use Azure or whether you use Bootstrap or whatever, being able to build your own prototypes is so vital, because if you're a UX person, you want to control that experience right through. You don't want to hand it to a developer and I was going to say fuck up, but I can't say, let's say they mess up your work. Nothing is, I've noticed that a lot of people who work in responsive web design sites really have no idea of what it takes to make a component collapse. So I've seen UX people go, oh, we'll just move that button over here. You're like, in what world can we just slide that over there? Whereas if you're involved in this process, you understand how things collapse, how things expand. The other thing is rich interactions. If you're a UX person, it pays to be on top of all the latest in how JavaScript works, how things will open, where there's going to be spinners, all this sort of rich interaction that goes on. And yes, it's part of the development world, but it's really also important, I think, that those things are articulated by UX people as well. So while it's great to wear one hat only, there is definitely something to be said for spreading your knowledge and skill out to other areas. Now, finally, to touch on the concept of unicorn. Now, there is a unicorn in here. Where is he? Someone who claims to be a unicorn. Where's Joe? Not the other one. Anyway, Alan's another one. Where's Alan? Hold up your hand. He's gone quiet. Okay. Is there such a... Who knows what a unicorn is? Hands up who knows what a unicorn is. Articulate it. Here we go. What's a unicorn? Now stop, stand up, turn around. First of all, welcome to Alcoholics Anonymous.
It's a horse with a thing that's in it.
Excellent.
A unicorn in UX is a mythical beast who's got ability across every single possible role. They can code, they can wireframe, they can research, they can do freaking everything.
Yeah. And there are people I've met, I've been hammering at Alan, but Alan is a classic example. One of the only people I've met that like I would classify as a true one is a guy called Cameron Adams. Anyone know Cameron Adams? He is someone who can do brilliant design, UX, great coder, etc. So are there any of them out there? Sure, in your dreams. But there are some out there. But even if they are, here's the problem, I suppose, with this concept of a mythical beast. I don't know whether you agree with this, but I've noticed that there's probably a big difference between this thing of empathy and understanding. So you may be empathetic to UX, but there's a big difference between being empathetic and having a passion for it and actually having years of experience in there. As an example, I work at the Australian Museum. I worked there for 29 years. And we do guerrilla testing literally on a weekly basis. You walk out, you sit in front of people with a wireframe, with a prototype, and you're asking questions on a weekly basis. And you get a hunch for how things are going to work. And it's interesting when you sit with a developer and they'll go something like, well, that'll work. You're like, dude, you have no idea. So, experience comes in. I'm sure you guys have all experienced that as well. The other thing is that it's impossible to keep up with anything. Has anyone else experienced this? This dreaded fear that in our industry, it's rapidly changing. And literally, if you go away for a weekend, you're guaranteed on Monday morning that your industry's changed about 10%. So don't go away. Well, the third thing is this idea of bias. It's something that a lot of people don't talk about, but everyone has a bias. I'll give you two quick examples. When I'm working with clients on my own, I will fill the role of design, UX, and front end. Would that lead to any bias, do you think? Of course. If I'm going to build something in the end, I'm going to make it simpler when I'm wireframing. You don't think that literally, but it's something going on. I'm just building it going, I've got to build that. So invariably there's influences going on. And if you've got to build at the back end, you're also going to be thinking about that. Now, it's not as simple as that, but there are going to be biases if you're being involved through the chain. But that's it for me. What I really want to know is what you think. Now, I know all you care about is coming for a beer because you're alcoholics. But what I really want to know is from you guys. Do you agree? Should you be cross-skilling? Do you find that your career is changing on a daily basis? Should you be just a specialist? What I want to hear from you. That was very dramatic. I should have dropped the mic, shouldn't I? I'm not going to have any answers for you.
Cameron's got something.
Here's one.
No, I'm not throwing this mic. Yeah, I really wanted to find out how you design for incontinency on a website. That's my first question.
Quickly.
What was that? Throwing what?
You mentioned incontinency. I wondered how you design for incontinency. Just make the pages load fast, I guess.
Hey, great talk. I really enjoyed it because I feel like I'm more of a generalist, mainly because I work for a startup. So
come up here for a hug.
Oh, okay.
That's going to happen, guys.
Yeah.
I'm here for all night. I can just keep going. Sorry.
No, yeah. It really resonated with me. That whole like, I talk to a lot of people about similar issues about like. Doing everything, and I agree with you that it is harder to do everything to the same level. I don't think I do it to the same level as other people, but when you're in a startup, it's like, it's better than no one doing it, so, So yeah, it's just really great. Great talk, thank you very much.
Now, I'm hoping for some more abuse. While I do love the love, surely someone disagrees. Come on, I can see it out there. There's deep hatred seething under some of those bonnets.
I've got a question on the unicorn line.
Okay. I'm not a unicorn, by the way. So.
No, I know you're not a unicorn, Russ. It's okay. Okay, so we've got Jared Spall at the moment, who's out there starting up what he is actually called a Unicorn Institute. Really? Yeah, dead serious. It's basically he started educating people, and he in a talk that I saw, it was not last year, the year before, in Boston. He said, why can't we all be unicorns? We all should be unicorns, there's no reason for this, and hence he's starting up the Unicorn Institute. So, do you think that's reasonable or unreasonable?
No. I don't know anyone here. I came to the conclusion, much to my disappointment, that I'll never be a back-end developer. I just don't have the head for it. There are some people that are brilliant. I failed maths at school. Admittedly, part of that because I didn't attend school. I spent time at home smoking, but I will just never have that brain. I was smoking only cigarettes and I didn't inhale. But I spent that entire time, there's no way I'll ever be a developer. And so, you know, I could go to that school for 6 years and probably go smoking out the back. So there might be people. I said, like, I'm picking on poor Alan here. I would say Alan fits in that category, and someone like Cameron Adams. There are people out there that do, but very rare. And I think it's unfair to assume that you can go across them. What do other people think? Do you think it's possible? Who's a unicorn?
Craig.
I also think, like, you forgot to add as well, now with more devices, it's even becoming even more tough.
Yes.
Because you can be even like a UX, UI person, but then
Absolutely.
for mobile it's totally different. So sort of I think being a unicorn nowadays is almost impossible.
I think you have to be a multi-horn unicorn. Multi-device unicorn? Multi-corn, there we go. A multi-corn. Can someone quickly register that?
Yes,
Got a certain ring to it.
I got to agree, really good talk. I'm like a
Who's talking, by the way?
designer.
Oh, sorry.
Didn't really have a question, but kind of in response to yours. I think, but in terms of, I guess, defining unicorns, I think engineers that turn designers, you're probably more likely to, per se, than designers who are trying to turn engineers, just because it's harder to get that engineering mindset than it is, per se, to get a design mindset.
That's exactly what we want to see now. Right on the floor. Can I just say thank you? Thank you.
Russ, you're not the only one.
Please, nobody throw any pizza.
Before we go on, what's your Twitter handle?
You're not giving it out.
I totally disagree. I think that engineering is a lot easier than design, and I have a degree in both, so like totally understand. Engineering is kind of just easier to study for and grow up quicker. I think design takes a lot longer to fully like appreciate, and you can't just get good marks in it by studying hard. Yeah, I mean you can get better marks, but it's hard. It's a lot more crafty and it takes a lot longer. I find engineering's easier to sort of like do maths, and I did design before engineering, so.
Can I just ask, how many developers, this is probably an unfair audience, who's a developer in the room? Yeah, we're vastly outweighed here. Anyone else got a strong opinion?
I was just going to say, from the outside of it, from someone that's working with lots of different clients, I would say as fast as you can cross-skill or specialise, they'll adapt and come up with a new variety that they need for what they're doing. So I kind of think...
Is this for employability?
No, I think not so much that, a little bit of that, but also I think if you focus maybe more on what you enjoy about what you work on and the project and worry less about what your skill set is, because I think you can cross between being a cross-skill person and specialist depending on who you're going to.
Sounds fair enough. By the way, in 2 seconds we're going for beer.
Not 2 seconds, no. But I think we've got a topic rising for next time. We're going to have the engineers on one side.
I was hoping, could the two guys come up the back, out front, and have a sort of rap battle?
Quite nearly. Yeah, I'm curious. So, can we get a show of hands again for devs in the room? Don't be shy. Don't be shy. So, yeah. Would you call
like
yourself
a unicorn to me.
And I'm including markup.
That's not development. That's how you actually come in the room.
So, designers, would you call yourself a designer? So a few more, that kind of makes sense. Engineers? Yep, a couple of engineers. All right, does anyone else have any questions for Russ?
That's it. Oh, remember there's beer at the back, people. There's
Sorry.
beer at the back.
What's your thoughts on producers? Obviously, producers they have a lot of
Show of
skill.
hands, who's a producer in the room? They are the Paris of... They're not really Paris. I've been a producer as well. But it's not as fun as being a...
It's sort of the unicorn role though, because you've got to understand devs and designers.
Yeah. I suppose the difference again, like that empathy, you have to have understanding and empathy, but not deep, skill in it. So,
depends what kind of producing.
yes, very good point. Is this sort of like a cloud-based unicorn that can hover above and have Anyway, I think we're done. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Russ. Just a couple of things, just to the end of that.